Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 126. The daily positional debate continues. We've got injury updates and the latest awards. Plus, is Gatland playing games? You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. Coming to you a little bit later this week, but this week nonetheless. It was touch and go for a minute, but we remembered we did make a promise, so here we are. And I'm joined, of course, by Dan. Hi, mate.
Aloha! How we doing, mate? Good week?
Yeah, very good. You're not in Hawaii, are you?
I'm not in Hawaii at the moment, but I have been looking at holidays.
Fair enough.
Not at Hawaii, so I don't know what Aloha was about, but you know.
Fair enough. Maybe what one can dream.
Exactly.
One can dream. A few things been going on this week, a few things to discuss. And as we often do, we're going to start. We hadn't actually had any new reviews, but a couple of people have been in touch, so I thought we'll start with that. The first one is more for you. I don't know how useful this is going to be at this stage, but it's from Tom Fossell, who obviously invited you to join their tour. I think he actually invited you to join them for a beer. You invited yourself to join the tour.
Makes sense.
But he emailed me this morning saying, lads, I'll be boarding the plane here momentarily. If you'd like to meet up at all, look me up on Facebook Messenger or email me back. I'd still love to get a beer if either of you are free. I'm not around this weekend. I'm away, but I'll leave it with you, Dan. I don't think we need to respond in the episode.
Yeah, no, Tom, afraid I'm not about this weekend, but mate, have an awesome tour. And let us know how you go on. Let us know, give us some tour stories.
Some tour bants.
We are well aware of what goes on tour, so don't worry. So if there's anything that you can share, please do.
What goes on tour stays on the England Rugby Pod.
It does.
We promise to only discuss it between the two of us.
live on the pod.
Live on the pod, of course.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you reaching out to us, and sorry we've made out that we were going to make the effort to join you, and clearly we've let the side down a little bit, but I'm sure it won't take long for you to completely forget that you ever invited us. So enjoy the tour.
Exactly.
If you're not already smashed, you should probably neck a beer. What else? Oh, so I had a tweet from Jason Lapthorne, and this actually will lead nicely into one of the first things I want to discuss today. And
I'll tell you now, Lappers is a mate of mine.
That doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't, no.
But good to know. Jason says, great pod as usual, but surprised in the Good versus Daly debate. There was no mention of Daly's transfer to Sarries. What's the impact there, also factoring in Liam Williams? And before we respond to it, I just did a little bit more digging on that particular fact. And yeah, as he says, Elliot Daly obviously heading to Saracens from Wasps, where he's going to join world-class Welsh fullback Liam Williams, European Player of the Year nominee fullback Alex Good. Where do Saracens see Daly fitting in?
Do you know what? This is a really good point. Lappers, firstly, Lappers plays fullback. Mate, you're so one-dimensional. Just try and widen your rugby knowledge, dickhead. But it's actually it's a really good point. Like Daly's joining and like you said, you got Williams, you got Good. Where does Daly? I think he's going as a centre.
Well, I do too, which is interesting because obviously that's something that I wanted to see from an England perspective. I was looking at the sort of the squad and the likely options. So you've got outside of Good and Liam Williams, you've got Sean Maitland on the wing, Alex Lazowski at centre, Nick Tompkins, I believe, is a centre, David Strettle.
Strettle's retiring.
Strettle's retiring, of course he is. Yeah. And then, of course, the other thing is that Marcelo Bosch is also leaving Sarries.
Yeah.
And he's both a centre but also a long-range kicking option, which kind of sounds familiar. So it does feel like they're looking at him as a centre. And with Watson returning, I wouldn't go so far as to say to form just yet. He's had one game and they lost. Not on him, not the prettiest of games. But it does sort of. It's kind of weird, isn't it? You've got Eddie Jones talking about seeing Daly as one of his first names on the team sheet, describing him as one of the few world-class players, or at least this was the last time that debate came up. He was one of the players that's... And not just him, to be fair. A lot of pundits as well talking about Daly as being one of world-class players in a small group. and potentially out of position.
It's it's interesting. So you've arguably got, on next season, Saracens will arguably have the 3 best fullbacks in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look into it, like you say, with those retirements, bearing in mind that Alex Good is going to, I suspect, play a fair bit of 10, which he has done, because, for example, Farrell's going to be away at the World Cup for a bit. So will Daly, obviously, at the start of the season. So will Williams.
Yep.
So you've got it's maybe not as bad, because the thing about those players is they're all so good, but they're actually very adaptable and can fit in. And so here's the question: if you've got all your players fit for Saracens, do all 3 of them start? Because you've probably got Farrell at 10, and then in the centres, Brad Barrett is massive for Saracens. I think you've got to play Brad Barrett because I think he does so much. But then, you probably have Daly ahead of Lazowski at 13 for me. Williams on the wing, Good at fullback. Yeah. Unless
you put Daly on the wing.
Oh, you could have Daly on the wing as well, of course. Yeah, have Lazowski.
So basically, you've got the 3 best fullbacks in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, don't forget they've got Lewington as well, haven't we?
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. They don't need to fill a gap. But if you're looking to just purely go with what's the strongest side you can put out, I mean, maybe that's not the case. Maybe you would argue that probably less so with Leah Williams, because I think wing/fullback is kind of his position. Good,
yeah.
Good's he's a fullback who can play fly half. And Daly, we're not really sure exactly what his position is, because he came onto the scene for England as a winger. He's now clearly being earmarked as the future of the 15 shirt for England, despite competition from various places. He's been talked about at 13. He's talked himself about wanting to be a centre. It's an interesting one. I don't know.
So quick question I have for you and Lappers, if you're listening, tweet us in and let us know your thoughts as well. So Akers, for you, just one answer. Who do you think of those 3 is the most naturally talented rugby player?
Oh, probably Liam Williams.
I'm going Alex Good. And Lappers, you get the 3rd either deciding vote or you may go Daly.
But they're all so good, and it's a weird one to ask. I feel dirty, by the way, for having chosen Williams.
You should feel dirty. You should feel horrendous. Yeah.
But
you basically cheated on your wife. It's as bad as that.
I know. But it's interesting, isn't it, that we're talking about Alex Good in this way, and it's not the first time that we've mentioned this, and it will lead me nicely onto my next talking point. He's a player who is being so overlooked. He's not the only one. Isn't it bizarre that we're talking about the most naturally talented player, nominee for Player of the Season, European Player of the Year, and all these other things, and Eddie's just not giving him a look in 2 years?
I don't understand why. Like you say, and you've said this a few times, and I do agree. I don't think Eddie has vendettas. I actually don't. I know there's a lot of things about people like, he clearly doesn't like that player. I think maybe he doesn't like the way a player played. I think maybe Alex Good is missing something that fits into Eddie's style. Maybe it's that yard of pace. Maybe. But yes, it is a little bit weird, I think.
I mean, as I say, so leading on to the next thing then, and turning back to players that are being ignored. Well, it's in some cases ignored, in other cases not so much. But you got Cipriani and Slade, both have nominated for the Rugby Players Association Player of the Year award.
Yeah.
Eddie, care to comment? Again, it's, and I know that we kind of 1 week I'm arguing for it and 1 week I'm arguing against it, but it does feel like we, as the fans, as the people who are spending our money rather than getting paid to be involved in this game, need something more. Some form of explanation as to why players like Cipriani, like Alex Good, who are being recognised globally for their talent, are simply not being given a look in by the man in charge of our national side.
It's yeah. I mean, Cipriani arguably has had a look in, but there's no point giving somebody a look in, them performing as can possibly be as well as can be expected in the situation, and then not getting another look in. I mean, that's even more of a muggle.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, obviously part of that comment was also to say congrats to both Cipriani and Henry Slade, also nominated, along with Faf de Klerk, Corbus Reinach, and Santiago Cordero. They're the other nominees. And then you got Ollie Thorley of Gloucester, nominated for Young Player of the Year, alongside Joe Cokanasiga, Tom Curry, he's up for another award, as the kind of the England boys, and then also Alex Dambrant of Quins. Don't know him. And Rory Hutchinson of Northampton Saints. They're the others up for the Young Player of the Year award. So,
who are your two winners?
I mean, Tom Curry for the Young Player has to be, doesn't it?
Well, so don't forget, this is Premiership. For me, like, Tom Curry's been amazing, but he's done a lot in the England. For me, for the Young Player, I'm going Ollie Thorley.
Blaster.
Yeah.
and then for the main one, I kind of just hope it's Cipriani, because I just think it makes it just makes this whole debate even more interesting. And it's at some point Eddie will have to comment.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I think probably Faf de Klerk will get it, but because he's been pretty epic. But I don't know. We'll see. Right, on to my next thing. We're out of order, so I'm kind of bouncing around a bit here. But right, here we go. As is always, one of the things that he likes to do. Manu Tuilagi is injured.
Yes,
it's a hamstring. Before we get too worked up, too panicked, it's projected to be a 3 to 4 week recovery period. So
it sounds familiar.
It's not something, certainly at the moment, that as England fans we need to be worrying about with the World Cup looming. But it does mean that he's out for the remainder of the season. And my question to you is not so much about the injury, but is it a good thing for Manu that he's no longer involved with Leicester for the rest of this season, given where they are? I think they're safe. We'll come on to that at the end. But it's been a dreadful season. Is it kind of good before a World Cup to kind of not be almost like psychologically you weren't involved in those last two games? So if they kind of go badly, at least you're out, you're not involved. Or is it bad because if Leicester go on and have a great couple of last games, it's almost like look, Manu wasn't involved and we did really well.
No, I think it's a very good thing.
And the rest.
I think now Manu can almost sit back mentally and say, my God, what a shit season. Right, that's done with. We're pretty sure we're safe now. That I suspect they've got Quins today. Although I think Quins will win. I think Leicester will get the bonus point, and I think will probably make themselves safe. I think he can mentally just say, wow, that was shit. Okay, that's done with. I can deal with that. I can focus now on having a little bit of a rest, get myself back to full fitness, and get myself ready for this World Cup. Get rid of those just the odd, the niggles, the bruises, the batterings, and be ready for the camp. Give himself plenty of time to heal. I personally think it's a good thing.
Not like Manu Tuilagi of all people has been kind of overplayed, like some players, So he's not. I think for him, it's more a psychological rest than a physical one.
Yes,
that's the advantage. I think you mentioned it a few weeks ago. How is Leicester's performance this season going to impact the Leicester players involved in the World Cup? And I was saying, it won't make a difference because it's a new team and it's a whole different ball game, and not literally. But I feel like it's a good thing for Manu to just have that kind of couple of steps away from Leicester in terms of his involvement in that, and time, as you say, to kind of regroup. But I think mentally, to get kind of mentally fit for the World Cup and be in the right place, the right headspace. Heading into that, and I guess the same applies to Ben Youngs, who's obviously also not involved. I don't know why we're putting Y's on the end of people's names.
Tuilagi and Youngsie. They can both sit down. They can both go over to Ben Youngs on a Friday evening, which is tonight, because I believe Leicester are playing tonight. And they can have a few beers and be like, oh, if we were there, we'd be dominating, we'd be bossing it. But never mind, we're all about England now. So they can, I think it's good for them both to have a rest, to just chill out, just get this crap season done and dusted with in their heads.
Yeah, move on.
Move on and be like, right, cool. We're winning the World Cup in a few months, so let's put all our focus on that.
Exactly. Okay, well, before we head into some darker territory, that's probably an exaggeration. A shining light, perhaps. I don't know. I know nothing about Andrew Kitchener. Worcester Warriors lock, but he has been tipped by Warriors Director of Rugby as a future England player. Do you know anything about him? This could be a very short segment.
I know very little about him. I know he's got an older brother who plays for Leicester, I believe.
Older brother's not had a shot.
No, as far as I'm aware. I don't know much about it. I actually read this article as well. It sounds like this fella is one to watch, and it sounds like he's got a bright future ahead of him. I suspect we're talking at least a couple of years, because he's in the row, isn't he?
He is.
And if you look at who we've got, I mean,
he's battling the awesome foursome plus.
You've got Sekwe, Marrow, Cruz, who are none of them are particularly old. The Launchpad and Courtney are getting on a few years, but they've still got years left if they want. So, yes, it could well be, and that's great things to happen, but he may have to wait and bide his time until, some of these current legends are...
out of the way, out of the picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Strong segment. I think we did him justice.
Well, I think we did.
Let's move on. So you probably have read all the stuff I've read, but did you read about Rhys Carr?
I didn't.
So the Blues prop moving to Sarries has been he's uncapped for Wales. He's been selected in Wales's extended Rugby World Cup squad.
Right.
But he also qualifies for England.
Right.
And there's obviously been the chat, has Gatland selected him in this extended World Cup squad almost with the sole purpose of ensuring he doesn't go to England?
Yes.
Or get looked at as a potential England player?
Yes, he has.
Is that it?
He's a petty Kiwi Welsh coach. Yes, he's done exactly that. Has he done that?
I mean, he says no, obviously.
Of course he says no. And I suspect it probably is a no. I suspect he probably hasn't done it that way. How good is this player? Because we've got some pretty useful young props.
Yeah. It's not.
I don't know how big a loss this is to us.
It's not so much. It's not about it being a massive loss to us. It was more actually leading on to the next part of my question to you, which is, given what you said last week about the possibility of Gats being involved with England.
Yeah.
Surely, if he was trying to do anything sneaky, it would be to improve this guy's chances of do you know what I mean? Like, surely it would make more sense for him to keep him available, if you like, for him with England, if that was something, if he genuinely believed this was a future star, or maybe it's all mind games. Maybe he's done it. Yeah, he's done this to hook him into Wales because he doesn't want him to be available for England, because he wants Wales to pick him and he doesn't think he's very good.
Yes, it could be. It could be like, oh, thank God. Yeah, if I pick him now, I don't have to pick him when I'm England coach. Or don't forget, being picked for an extended Wales squad doesn't count for anything until you get that cap.
No, it doesn't at all. So actually, the whole thing is irrelevant, because unless they actually cap him. But I suppose, it's just one step closer. Maybe it's about giving him as a player that sort of... I mean, it's a bit weird anyway, because he's moving to Sarries, so he can't play for Wales anyway.
Well, actually, he can. Because he had never played for Wales before. There is a rule about that like Wales have properly like this whole they can only pick players based in Wales is a bit of a piss.
Unless they have more than 60
Unless they have more than 60 caps. But also because he's not capped.
Yeah.
And he had signed for Saracens before he got called up, he actually can continue playing. Because then I guess the argument is, he improved as a player. There is something, and I could be butchering this and getting this completely wrong.
So if you're a player with 50 caps and you move to Sarries, let's say, and therefore you can't play, Rhys Webb.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you can't play for Wales, and then there's some guy who's just moved to Sarries, who's never been capped before, but he can play for Wales.
Yeah, Duffett or Davies or whatever. Yeah, he's never been capped and then gone abroad to France to get the big money. Suddenly becomes a good player. They're like, oh no, you can play for Wales. That's cool. There is. I may be getting this wrong.
I think you're no. I think you're right. I mean, I don't know about the details, but I think you're right. I did read something about it. And it didn't make any sense to me. I just assumed it was a typo. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe these journalists know a little bit more than I do.
Well, I think the Welshies have been a bit naughty. I think they've been very naughty boys. And I think they've picked this system to make it benefit themselves. Which fair enough, they can do what they want.
Yeah. Anyway, obviously, Gats isn't coming to England, and we're going to stop calling him Gats. He's not our mate. Warren Gatland is not coming to England. If and when he does, then he can be Gats.
Cool.
Okay. So sticking with the Welsh theme, Shaun Edwards has also just rejected a contract extension with Wales, and as things stand, he's not going anywhere else because he turned down the job at was it Wigan?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So 2 things. England's defence is obviously looking good most of the time. So there probably is not a place for him in the England setup, certainly as a defence coach, would you say?
I would love him to be England defence coach.
Is it going to happen? I mean, maybe after the World Cup. Well, it's going to have to be after the World Cup anyway. So yeah, possibly. Your new coach comes in, wants someone else.
I think that's a big option.
Or is Shaun Edwards looking for a head coaching role at national level? He's done how many years has he done? Almost
international level. Do you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, at international level. Sorry.
Yeah, who though? Is he ready? I don't think he's ready to take on a tier 1 nation yet.
Well, what is ready? I mean, he's done 12 years under Gats at Wales.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
And during that time, obviously, Wales have had some strong performances. They've got better and better. He's been heavily involved in that.
He has.
I think he's the sort. Maybe not the England job, but someone like a France. I mean, they need to.
Well, don't forget France. France have said they won't pick foreign coaches.
Yeah, they've said
they won't pick a foreign head coach. They did that vote.
What happens if they get knocked out in the group stages of the World Cup?
Well, I think for the next one they're screwed because this vote only came in like a month ago or so.
Okay.
Where they voted, they literally went out, and in theory it's a nice system. They literally went out to, I think, like every registered French club, professional and amateur, I believe, and said, do you want us to pick, would you be happy for us to pick a head coach who's like head coach of the national team who's a foreigner? And they came back, I think it was like something like 60% saying no, they want it to be a Frenchman.
Fair enough. A Frenchie.
Oh, Frenchies, come on, boys. You've got such talent. You could be so much better rather than a piece of shit you're turning out now. Come on.
Maybe what they need is a French head coach, but literally surround themselves with a backroom staff of tried and tested
the French head coach, like, sit there drinking wine and eating cheese. Oh, my God, am I being racist? I hope not.
Probably, mate, probably.
I'll stop.
Good call. But if he doesn't go to France, for example, would we like to see him involved with England? Do we think that he spent so long with the Welsh team that he? No,
hell no.
Obviously, the value.
I don't know where your question was going there, so I don't know why I answered.
I think you got it.
Yeah.
But he huge value in terms of sharing knowledge. Of Welsh rugby and their...
Are him and Gats coming as a team to England?
No. I've told you Gatland's not coming.
But are they?
No, Warren Gatland isn't coming. Because
it's... Yeah. I'd love Shaun Edwards to be the England defence coach. I'd absolutely love it.
And it may well happen. We'll watch this space. It would be. I agree with you. I think it'd be cool.
Because I heard a rumour that they're coming as a pair.
Did you?
I completely invented that rumour.
I was going to say, now, but, did you also start the rumour?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, you're not lying when you say you've heard it, then.
Well, exactly.
Let's move on. So obviously, the big things we've been talking about recently is the Premiership, because it's just a crazy crazy league that's kind of super exciting and things are changing literally week on week. However, it is starting to look fairly settled at the bottom in terms of what we think we'll see. It's not mathematically over yet. Newcastle are in a bit of trouble.
Newcastle are. This is one of those, whereas I would say, yeah, it's ridiculous. Of course it's over. The only thing stopping me saying that is at halftime in England-Scotland, I said, of course, England will win this game. It would be ridiculous to say otherwise. So I cannot see Newcastle need 2 bonus point wins. They need Leicester to get nothing.
Well, let's also, just before you go on, I mean, let's not forget, you're saying, it was the England-Scotland game that makes you say that, but, Worcester beat Gloucester.
Yeah.
I know that some of the top teams are not playing their strongest sides because they're resting players for the playoffs, potentially. Gloucester are one side that are fairly safe in the top 4. The top 3 are obviously safe. But, things can happen. There's 2 games left. I mean, if Newcastle were to pull off 2 stunning victories and Leicester to lose both their games and no bonus points...
Well, that's it. Newcastle need 2 bonus point wins and Leicester realistically need 2. And Leicester are away at Quins, and Quins badly need a win. Now dropping out of top 4. The difference between saying Worcester beat Gloucester, something for me, is Newcastle are playing Gloucester. Newcastle are coming down to play Gloucester at Kingsholm. I think Worcester might be beaten at Kingsholm, but
let's just quickly go back then and look at last week's game. So Newcastle played Northampton. It was fairly convincing, even though it was at Newcastle, 17-31 to Northampton. You then had the Sale-Bath game with Anthony Watson's return. I didn't watch it. The scoreline says it all to me. It was 6-3, pissing rain.
Horrendous game.
What an awful game. And obviously Bath not come out on top there, which is... made things interesting, which we'll come on to in a moment. Exeter, Quins, I didn't see this game, but scoreline-wise, it looked quite an interesting one, 17-15 at Exeter. Was that a reasonable performance from Quins, or was it just...
I haven't seen the game in full. I've seen very quick highlights. I don't think Exeter were fully committed to this game. Quins did their usual. They went like 12 points ahead really quickly and then just spent the game fighting back and did a good job of it. But they just can't keep doing that.
No, a bit like England.
Yeah. Well, England tend to go ahead.
No, I know.
And then throw it away. But it's...
Oh, sorry, you're saying Quins went down 12?
Sorry. Yeah, Quins went down 12. Like they did it against Clermont in Europe. And they just keep giving away these huge leads, and then fine, they play brilliantly to fight back, but it's always just that,
too little, too late.
Far. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So they need a win. You've got then you had Leicester Bristol. This was, I think, one of the ones that we picked as one of our ones to watch because, of course, these two are both fighting to not own. I think what we said was whoever wins that game is safe, and that is the case.
Yeah, I think that.
But interestingly, it's done more than that because Bristol won 23-20 away, so it was at home for Leicester. Wasps then were fairly comfortably beaten by Sarries, and as we mentioned before, Worcester beat Gloucester 27-20. And what it's done to the table is, as I mentioned, you've got the top 3 fairly safe: Exeter on 81, Saracens 72, Gloucester 61. So even though there's 20 points between them, there's then another 10-point drop down to 4th with Northampton. But Quins also, both of them on 51 points. So that's...
Bristol are 6 points off a top 4 finish. That's insane.
Well, but this... So come to that in a moment. But Northampton and Quins both on 51 points. This week you've got Northampton against Worcester. You'd back Northampton on paper. You've got Quins against Leicester. You'd back Quins on paper. So either one of those becomes an upset and... they're probably kissing their top 4 chances goodbye. So they're both must-wins for those two. Both ones to watch, despite the expectation of the result. Then you drop down to 6th place, and you've got Sale on 48 points, 7th Wasps on 47 points, 8th Bath on 46 points, and 9th Bristol on 45 points. There's 4 points between the 4 of them.
It's all very naughty.
And you've got and all four of them are playing each other this weekend. You've got Bristol against Sale and you've got Bath against Wasps.
Wow.
So both those games are going to be really interesting in terms of what the middle of the table looks like right now, but potentially what the top four looks like, which is crazy to think that Bristol, who 2 weeks ago we were talking about what they needed to do to keep themselves from being at risk of going down, could potentially be looking at, I don't think it's going to happen, but they could potentially be looking at a playoff place.
Yeah, I don't know. It may not be possible because of like other games and other results being dependent on it. But what Bristol should be focusing on is a top six and being in Champions Cup, which is very, very possible, especially if they win, especially if they beat Sale.
I mean, they're 3 points away. They're 3 points behind sixth place, as you said. So yeah, that's definitely possible. But you know, the Northampton. I mean, Leicester need a win, even though Quins also need a win. Both those teams need a win, and so you know we know Leicester have got the talent. There's no reason why they can't get it right. We don't really know what's going wrong at the moment. So that there could be an upset there. Northampton, Worcester just beat Gloucester, so there's something going on there. So you never know. If both those two were to lose, you know it's going to look crazy. The race for you're going to have it'll almost be a race for the top four in the last game of the season. Yeah,
it's gone crazy.
I haven't done the maths, but there's the potential that there could be like 6 teams capable of being in the top 4, depending on results in the last game of the season. That's crazy.
Oh mate, the whole league. Sorry, I literally got slightly diverted there. My mum just texted me saying, "Have a fabby weekend." It's just, I think she's finally lost it. It's probably time I put her in a home, to be honest. But ignoring that, yeah, mate, the whole league has gone absolutely crazy, but in an amazing way. And this is again why we go back to, please keep relegation promotion. Yeah. Because it's such a good league. And like you say, it is crazy. And there's so many different variables, as you were just pointing out when you're reading it all out. There's so many different variables, but we don't know how this league's going to look at the end. It could look massively different to how it looks now, which with 2 games to go is ridiculous.
It is insane. You'd like to think, most teams would like to think it was all wrapped up by now, but we're not just talking about sparring for position in the middle of the table here. We're talking about people at the bottom of the table, potentially still with a chance of fighting to get into the top of the table with as you say, 2 games left. So next week's episode with that 1 game remaining is going to be an interesting one, because we will then be able to do, and we will make a bit more of an effort to do all the maths and work out all the possible outcomes and kind of almost say this is what could happen and this is how it would need to be done. And kind of come up with all the sort of various connotations of how the table could end up looking if results go certain ways. It is a fascinating season.
Right, it's a great season, and once the excitement of this season finishes, the absolute pure adrenaline-filled excitement of the World Cup build-up and World Cup start. So absolutely. Rugby is going to be good for the next few months.
It is. Now, next week, there's quite a lot going on. So we've obviously got next week's episode looking towards the final game of the season.
Yeah.
We've then got, I think probably, then there's the result of that.
Yeah.
We've also got the Barbars game on the 2nd of June, which I'm going to be at. So we need to get something in before then. Look at who we think they might get selected. There was a whole thing going around. I think one of the sponsors was doing a sort of Facebook or Twitter session where ask Eddie. You can post questions. Do you remember I did that thing before the Lions?
Yeah.
So whether or not we get any responses remains to be seen. But considering pretty much every question was, why the fuck haven't you selected Cipriani and Good? I figured if I put in some genuine questions. And don't ask me what they were. I can't remember now, but they were.
Oh, when did you do this? I didn't know.
Just the other day. I saw it on Facebook, and I thought, well, let's post some questions as the England Rugby Pod and see if we can get any responses like we did last time. So we never know. Obviously, one of those was, do you get most of your ideas from listening to the England Rugby Pod?
Nice.
I doubt that one will get read out, but you never know.
I'd be surprised.
I think he's going to want to keep that to himself because he's not going to want his competitors
It's like, how do they
to
know?
start
How do
listening
they
to
know?
us
Yeah.
because we're giving away too many tactical, pieces of little gems. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully something comes back of that. But if not, then screw you guys. But yeah, there's lots to get in, and I'm away on holiday for the last 10 days of May, and literally get back in
10 days.
I know, mate.
What's going on here?
Taking the piss this year.
You are taking the piss.
So probably won't be able to do an episode because I'm in the middle of nowhere in Portugal with no internet. So we're going to need to kind of work out how to make this work. We're going to have to get some. We may even go nuts and have to get in a double one week.
Oh wow!
I know.
Great.
I haven't done that in a while. So yeah, lots to think about, lots to discuss. We had this kind of little lull, and it's starting to hot up again.
It's starting to get very exciting.
Just itchy feet, just little itchy feet.
Yeah, but I like it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. All right, look, let's leave it there. I think we've covered a good chunk today. Hopefully, our listeners agree. Guys, as always, thanks so much for tuning in. If you get the opportunity, please head over to iTunes, rate us, review us, let us know what you think. I believe you can rate us on Stitcher as well, although I rarely see any over there.
What the hell, Stitcher?
Apparently it's somewhere else you can listen to podcasts.
Awesome.
But yeah, spread the love, spread the word. We want to get as many people listening to us as possible with the World Cup looming. And if you want to get in touch with questions, suggestions, comments, whatever it might be, we're on social media at England Rugby Pod, or you can email us englandrugbypod@gmail.com, and we will look forward to hearing from you. But yeah, otherwise we will catch you guys next week.
Cheers, guys.